So, a few years ago, Kevin Feige, the top master and provider, said that Captain Marvel is actually the most powerful superhero in the MCU. Well, that was a lie. But if he comes today and says that Sadie Sink's Jean Grey is, or in the future will be, the most powerful character in the MCU, I will actually believe him. I mean, if we keep Doom aside because he's going to create an entire world, but all that is deception. So, from a technical standpoint, if Jean Grey is not the most powerful character in the MCU, she is definitely one of the most powerful characters. But Spider-Man, Brand New Day, doesn't even properly introduce her. We are just told that she is a character named Jean Grey who can telepathically and psychically manipulate anyone, control them, and even freeze them. But who is she? Nothing more than that. So no need to worry. What am I here for? So, if we start with the vast knowledge of the comic books, remember one thing for sure. If any mutant is shown in Marvel, the basis of their powers will be an X gene present in their body, in their DNA, which is dominant and mutated. Because of this, all those mutants get their powers. Now, this mutant X gene does not activate from childhood. That's why all the mutants never display their powers from childhood. There are exceptions in some cases. It generally activates upon hitting puberty. But apart from this, there is another case. If a human or a mutant has to suffer a very major trauma, then this X gene can activate earlier. And in Jean Grey's case, this is exactly what happens. When she is 9 to 10 years old, she is playing frisbee with her friend Annie. And Jean accidentally throws that frisbee onto the road. When her friend, who is the same age, runs onto the road to pick it up, a car comes and hits her, and she dies on the spot. But the trauma of this whole accident was so terrible that Jean's powers activate at that very moment, and she unconsciously connects psychically with her dying friend. So, this means that when her friend was dying, Jean felt that entire moment herself, as if she was dying herself, and that makes it even worse. Jean, who is a very small child, reaches a very terrible state, where she doesn't respond to anyone. It's basically PTSD. Her parents consult many doctors, psychiatrists, neurologists, everyone. But nothing seems to work until Charles Xavier arrives. When Charles Xavier arrives at the Grey's house, her parents tell him about Jean's entire condition. They take him to Jean's room. And look at this frame. First of all, the art of this entire comic book is extremely beautiful. And seeing Jean's face, which actress's face comes to your mind? So I would say that according to this, they have done quite good casting. Because she looks like Sadie Sink at least. So when Charles Xavier reaches Jean's room, we can notice in this panel that there are cracks in her walls, which were most likely caused by her psychic ability. At such a young age. So after Charles Xavier arrives there, he talks to Jean. He tries to make her understand, and then convinces her to train. So, slowly and gradually, he helps her control her psychic abilities a little. She has telepathy, telekinesis, everything, and not small-time stuff but quite powerful. So Charles Xavier helps her, gradually teaches her to control her powers. And finally, after a few days, he takes her to a crowded place. After reaching there, she remains fine for a while. But then a boy comes running and completely breaks her concentration, because she was actively trying to suppress and control her powers. But as soon as her concentration breaks, she starts to hear the voices. The voices are basically the thoughts of all the humans present in that entire area, and Jean just cannot control it. She goes crazy and unlocks her powers, throwing everyone there into the air. Charles Xavier somehow brings her back home, and then explains to her parents that Jean is not ready yet, and it was his mistake. He pushed Jean too much and prepared her for field work too soon. But she needs more time. So, he slowly works with Jean more and more. teaches her how to control her powers. And over time, we see Jean Grey transforming into that powerful psychic we have seen so far. But along with this, Charles Xavier does another very important thing, and that is placing mental blocks. Basically, Jean Grey is very powerful. Like, her telepathy is so strong that she herself cannot control her powers at times. I mean, even when she is in the adult stage, if she feels too much emotional trauma, her psychic abilities take over. And that is why Charles Xavier, in her childhood, places some blocks in her mind. I mean, he places mental blocks, which keep her powers in control. Think of this like a vault door that locks her powers behind a vault. And he places them multiple times. Now Jean still has powers, but slightly less. So, the telepathy part takes a bit of a back seat, and telekinesis takes over. Meaning, she can control things using her power, can read people's minds in a mild way. And she uses this very well to save people's lives. Then, when Charles Xavier starts his own school, and the core X-Men team that forms, she comes not as Jean Grey, but under the name Marvel Girl, and her bonding with Cyclops is established quite early on. With the whole team, she trains in the Danger Room and also goes on many missions. But then comes the Phoenix Force. Now, if you have seen any story of Jean Grey or any X-Men movie, you would know what the Phoenix Force is. Actually, you might not know, because the movies don't do a very good job of explaining the Phoenix Force either. So I'll tell you. In X-Men 3, when we saw Jean Grey and the Phoenix emerge from inside her, I mean, she got all fiery and all that, they didn't explain it properly. The Phoenix Force is basically a very, very powerful cosmic entity that exists in Marvel Comics, which denotes chaos, destruction, rebirth, all these things. The basic idea behind the Phoenix is that wherever it travels, it is a cosmic entity roaming the entire cosmos, and wherever it travels, if it feels that something should not exist, it consumes and destroys it. That is its way of working. Now, in Jean's case, the thing is that she is a perfect host for the Phoenix. I mean, such a perfect host doesn't even exist yet in Marvel comic books. And the main role in this is Jean's DNA. The Grey DNA specifically holds an affinity for the Phoenix Force. So during a mission, they are in space, and their ship gets into a very bad situation. Basically, they are fighting a villain. That villain escapes, and they get stuck in the ship. Now, there is no way to save the X-Men. So, Jean is using her telepathy to try and save everyone. Then comes the Phoenix. Unknowingly, Jean contacts the Phoenix through her telepathy. The Phoenix understands that this is a very good host, and comes and places a choice before Jean. If she wishes, the Phoenix can save Jean's friends. I mean, can save the X-Men. But in return, Jean has to give her body to the Phoenix. And Jean does the same. Now here, later on, some retcons were made in which it was told that Jean Grey's body was too weak for the Phoenix. So, the Phoenix puts her body in a cocoon so that she can recuperate, and in her place, creates a clone which it possesses itself with a fraction of its power, and that makes Jean Grey extremely powerful. So here, for the first time, Jean Grey was shown with the Phoenix Force. After that, we were told that the clone the Phoenix created was quite naive. Basically, it was pure Phoenix energy. So those mutants, Emma Frost and her Hellfire Club, what they do is misuse it. They mentally manipulate Jean by using another mutant who traps her in illusions, and because of this, Jean does some bad things. She starts feeling that Cyclops is dead, so she turns against her own friends. And then she transforms into Dark Phoenix, who is one of the most dangerous villains in the Marvel Universe. So later on, this entire thing is fixed. That is a very long and vast story. Just understand this much. Jean Grey holds a very good affinity for the Phoenix Force, and that is why the Phoenix prefers her. Now, in Spider-Man, Brand New Day, we were shown another character who was connected to Jean Grey, and that was her sister, Sarah Grey. So, Sarah also exists in the comic books. However, she didn't play a very big role until recently. First of all, it's not like what was shown to us in the movie. I mean, in the movie, Sarah has telepathy powers like Jean. But that doesn't mean she becomes the type like Harry Potter's aunt. She actually loves her sister and supports her mutant status a lot. In fact, she publicly supports all the mutants a lot, and this very thing also becomes the cause of her death because there is a villain, I don't remember his name, but he captures her sister. And after capturing her, he releases a techno-organic virus or an organism on her named Phalanx. It is a collective consciousness. Don't go into deep details on that. Just understand this much, that Phalanx kills Sarah. Jean is definitely not happy about this, and this happens many years ago. Like, years ago, Jean tries to save her, but she is too late. But just now, in recent comic books, we were told that Jean has reached, in terms of the Phoenix Force, like there are Super Scion levels, she has reached the Ultra Instinct level. She is now the White Phoenix of the Crown. I mean, there are many levels within the Phoenix Force too. So, she has reached the very white room, which is its core. And reaching there, she became quite powerful. So powerful that she used her powers to rewrite reality. And during that very rewriting, she brought her sister Sarah back to life. Not only that, besides bringing her back to life, she has now given Sarah powers and made her a mutant as well, whose powers are sensing the abilities of other mutants, and she takes the name Beacon. So, Sarah Grey in comic books did not have powers initially, but now she has powers. But still, they are not the same powers that we were shown in Brand New Day. So, you can guess from this how powerful this character is. At least after getting the Phoenix Force, she becomes that powerful, which I think she will 110% get in the MCU as well. I mean, this is going to be the trajectory now. Sadie Sink's Jean Grey has been introduced to us. Probably we will see her again in Secret Wars, and from here, they are establishing a baseline. I mean, the atmosphere of mutants will be created beforehand. And then, this very X-Men team will carry forward into the X-Men solo movie later on. And because almost the whole world will watch Secret Wars, they will already know who these mutants are. And in this way, the X-Men solo movie that will release after Secret Wars, which is being directed by Jakes, will automatically find its footing. Meaning, people will know who this is, and then the void-like feeling people had post-Endgame will not happen in that way because they have already seen these characters in Secret Wars, and their story is moving forward. But along with this, we also saw in Spider-Man, Brand New Day how they have evolved Sadie Sink's powers. I mean, we don't know much about her family background. Although, in the comic books too, they are all killed. So, Jean is alone until she meets Charles Xavier and goes to his school. So, she leaves her family behind. So, similarly, you assume in the MCU too that she is alone for now until she finds Charles Xavier and his school, which doesn't exist in the MCU right now. But I have a feeling that in the battle world that Doom will create, there will be a separate place for mutants. And in that very place will be Charles Xavier's school, which they will carry forward into the MCU. As it is, one step ahead of time. Now, the thing to see is when she gets the Phoenix Force. Because not Marvel, but FX recently tried to do a cheap Phoenix Saga in their movies, where Sophie Turner's Jean Grey gets the Phoenix Force. But we all know how bad that was. So, I will wait for the MCU's Phoenix Saga because it is going to be pretty epic. It shows a villain who is a very formidable opponent, and many people die defeating her. It feels like narrating because the same will happen in Doomsday and also in Secret Wars. So let's see whatever happens. I'll meet you in the next one.